The laughter started before I even reached the conference room, and by the time I opened the door, every empty chair had somehow disappeared except for one. It was beside the woman everyone in the office pretended not to notice unless they were whispering about her. Dozens of eyes turned toward me, waiting for the humiliation they had carefully arranged. Then I looked at her trembling hands, noticed the untouched notebook in front of her, saw the quiet fear she was trying so hard to hide, and instead of feeling embarrassed, I felt something else entirely. The moment I pulled out the chair and sat beside her with a smile, the room fell into a silence so complete that even the air seemed to stop moving. If you believe kindness can change a life, forgiveness can heal old wounds, hope is never wasted, and everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing stories that remind us what compassion truly looks like. The company had moved into a bright glass building only a few weeks earlier, filling every floor with sunlight that streamed through enormous windows from morning until late afternoon. Everything looked polished and successful from the outside, yet inside the office, invisible lines separated people more effectively than walls. Popular employees gathered together for lunch. Managers chatted with rising stars. New hires desperately searched for somewhere to belong. I had transferred from another branch after nearly 8 years with the company, hoping for a fresh beginning after my father passed away and left me questioning whether climbing career ladders mattered as much as simply becoming a decent human being. His last advice had stayed with me every single day. He had once told me that the easiest way to measure a person's character was not by watching how they treated powerful people but by seeing how they treated the person everyone else ignored. On my first morning, I noticed her almost immediately. Her name was Meredith. She arrived before nearly everyone else, organized files with remarkable precision, answered emails faster than anyone, and quietly disappeared during breaks without joining conversations. She dressed neatly but simply, carrying the same faded leather bag every day. She never interrupted meetings. She never tried to draw attention to herself. Yet somehow she had become the office's favorite target. People joked that sitting beside Meredith guaranteed bad luck during presentations. They claimed she was awkward, strange, and impossible to talk to. Some insisted she had no sense of humor. Others rolled their eyes whenever her name appeared on a shared project. Nobody openly insulted her in front of management, but the little comments, the fake smiles, the forgotten invitations, and the carefully planned exclusions slowly built a prison around her that everyone pretended not to see. At first, I assumed there had to be some history I didn't understand. Offices often carried old conflicts that newcomers couldn't immediately recognize. But after several days, I realized something unsettling. There wasn't a scandal. There wasn't a betrayal. Meredith's greatest offense seemed to be that she was painfully shy after surviving something nobody bothered to ask about. The conference room incident changed everything. Our department director announced that everyone would work in pairs on a major client proposal worth millions. Before assignments were finalized, employees casually chose partners while pretending the decisions were spontaneous. One after another, every experienced employee found someone. By the time the list was nearly complete, only Meredith and I remained. Several coworkers exchanged amused glances. One even smiled with obvious satisfaction, convinced they had engineered the perfect joke at my expense. As I walked toward the only remaining chair, I heard someone quietly whisper that they almost felt sorry for me. Meredith stared at the table instead of looking at me. She shifted slightly to make room, as though apologizing simply for existing. I sat down, introduced myself warmly, and thanked her for saving me a seat. Her surprised expression lasted only a second, but it was unforgettable. For the first time all morning, the conference room became completely silent. The director continued explaining the project, but my attention kept drifting toward the notebook Meredith had already filled with detailed observations before anyone else had written a single sentence. Her notes were organized, insightful, and incredibly thorough. She had identified potential client concerns before they were even discussed. When the meeting ended, several teams immediately left to celebrate their partnerships over coffee. Meredith quietly gathered her papers, probably expecting me to invent an excuse to work separately. Instead, I suggested we begin immediately. She hesitated before giving the smallest smile. That afternoon became one of the most productive work sessions I had ever experienced. Meredith possessed an extraordinary ability to anticipate problems long before they appeared. She remembered obscure details from previous contracts, noticed inconsistencies everyone else overlooked, and somehow balanced creativity with careful planning in a way that made every idea stronger. Whenever I complimented her work, she seemed genuinely confused, as though praise belonged to another person entirely. As the days passed, we spent every daylight hour working together. Slowly, the walls around her began to crack. She eventually shared that several years earlier she had survived a devastating car accident during a morning commute. Her younger sister had not survived. Meredith recovered physically, but emotionally she never escaped the crushing weight of survivor's guilt. She became quieter, anxious in groups, and terrified of making mistakes. When she transferred into our office, her silence was mistaken for arrogance by a few influential employees. Rumors spread faster than truth, and before long, nobody cared enough to question the story they preferred believing. Listening to her, I realized something heartbreaking. The office hadn't rejected Meredith because they knew her. They rejected her because they never tried. One afternoon, sunlight filled the break room while employees celebrated another successful contract. Meredith entered to refill her water bottle. Conversations immediately faded. Several people left moments later without saying anything. She pretended not to notice. But I noticed. Instead of following everyone else, I stayed exactly where I was and invited her to join me for lunch. She accepted. That simple meal became another turning point. People watched us from across the room with visible confusion. They expected me to become uncomfortable. Instead, I laughed more during that lunch than I had all month. Meredith possessed a wonderfully dry sense of humor hidden beneath years of insecurity. She loved restoring old furniture, volunteered at an animal shelter every Saturday morning, and secretly wrote encouraging notes inside library books for strangers to discover. The woman everyone described as strange was simply gentle in a world that rewarded louder personalities. Weeks passed, and our client proposal steadily became the strongest project in the department. When presentation day arrived, bright sunshine poured through the windows, making the conference room glow. Halfway through our presentation, one executive interrupted with an unexpectedly difficult question involving financial projections nobody had anticipated. Several coworkers exchanged confident smiles, assuming our presentation was finished. Meredith quietly asked if she could answer. Her voice trembled during the first sentence. By the third sentence, confidence replaced fear. She explained every projection with remarkable clarity, supporting each conclusion using carefully researched evidence she had personally prepared as backup weeks earlier. The clients listened intently. When she finished, one executive smiled broadly before saying that her explanation had completely answered every concern they had. Our proposal won the contract. After the meeting, senior leadership congratulated both of us personally. For the first time since joining the office, people gathered around Meredith instead of walking away from her. She smiled politely. But I noticed something even more important. She no longer looked down at the floor. A few days later, one coworker who had participated in mocking Meredith approached our desk. His apology sounded awkward and imperfect, but it was sincere. He admitted that he had believed rumors without ever speaking to her himself. Meredith accepted his apology with more grace than anyone expected. Watching that moment reminded me that forgiveness doesn't erase pain. It simply refuses to let pain become the final chapter. Gradually, the atmosphere throughout the office changed. Others followed that first apology. Lunch invitations appeared. Group discussions became warmer. Managers finally recognized Meredith's remarkable abilities instead of overlooking them. The woman who had once eaten alone became someone younger employees sought out for guidance. One afternoon, months after that first meeting, I found Meredith standing beside the office windows, watching sunlight spread across the city skyline. She admitted she had almost resigned before I arrived because she believed she truly didn't belong anywhere anymore. She quietly thanked me for sitting beside her on that first day. I smiled because the truth was exactly the opposite. I told her she had given me something I desperately needed as well. After losing my father, I had started believing the world rewarded ambition more than compassion. Working beside Meredith reminded me that kindness still mattered, even when nobody applauded it. My father's final lesson had not only survived, it had become real in front of my own eyes. Sometimes the smallest decision changes far more than we can imagine. Choosing one chair instead of another. Sharing one lunch instead of eating alone. Offering one sincere compliment instead of remaining silent. Those moments rarely make headlines, yet they quietly reshape lives. Before we reach the end of this story, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment telling us about a moment when someone showed you unexpected kindness, or when you chose kindness even though it wasn't the easiest path. Your story might become the encouragement someone else desperately needs today. The following spring, Meredith received a well-earned promotion based entirely on her outstanding work and dedication. During the celebration held in the same conference room where everyone had once expected her humiliation, something beautiful happened without anyone planning it. Every seat around her filled first. People genuinely wanted to hear her ideas, celebrate her success, and thank her for helping them become better teammates. No one laughed. No one whispered. The silence that had once surrounded her with loneliness had been replaced by respect, friendship, and hope. As everyone applauded, I remembered that first morning when the only empty chair had been beside the woman everyone mocked. Looking back, I realized it had never been the worst seat in the room. It had been the best one, because it offered the chance to see a remarkable person hidden behind the world's unfair assumptions. Sometimes the greatest opportunities in life don't arrive wearing confidence or popularity. Sometimes they quietly wait in the place everyone else refuses to sit. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. And may we all remember that the person everyone overlooks today could become the very person who reminds us what kindness, courage, forgiveness, and humanity truly mean tomorrow.